Hi, and welcome to this installment of Frank and Mary here in Westboro. If you haven't seen this show before, my name is Art Bergeron. My day job is as an elder law attorney at Myrick O'Connell, actually right up the street here in Westboro off of Route 9. But this is not about my day job. It's about my friends Frank and Mary. If you've seen my presentations at senior centers in the area or at the library in Northborough or on Zoom, or then you know that Frank and Mary, my make-believe couple, want to live in their house until they die and be buried in the backyard. And if that's you, that means you want to be right here. You don't want to be in, you want to stay in Westboro. You don't want to go to San Diego to be with your kids. You don't want to go to Boston and be next to the ocean. You want to stay right here. So the question is, who do you need to know? What are the programs you need to know about in order to stay right here? So with me, I have this wonderful co-host who knows all those people you need to know, and that is my friend Shelby Marshall, recently re-elected, big time second termer. She's like the voice of institutional memory now, you know, in the Westboro Selectmen. And so she usually brings us really interesting guests, but we actually have this wonderful guest who just got elected to be one of your selectmen. So we invited him on so that he could argue with Shelby about what's going on in town. And I get to kind of moderate the argument. So Shelby, whom do we have on today?
Hi, good morning, Arthur. Great to see you as always. So I'm very excited that Sean Keogh, my fellow select board member, is joining us today. And on our last show, folks may remember we had Patrick Welch, who is also a newly elected member of the board. And, you know, as, you know, being a good politician that I am, I wanted to give, you know, equal time to my fellow new board members. But it's been a pleasure working with Sean in these first handful of months, and really just wanted to give him an opportunity to meet Frank and Mary and, you know, tell them about, you know, his impressions of what's going on. So we've got some hard-hitting questions lined up. And Sean, thank you for joining us.
But I also want to tell the viewers, now Sean has a tie on because he said he saw the show that Patrick did and Patrick had a tie on. So I'm not wearing a tie. That my tie days are gone, right?
All these I left my tie at home too.
Should I do this? You know, you can get a little clip on. You get a little.
Here we go. Here we go. Okay.
Oh no, this is bad.
There we go.
Wait a second. Better. Should we have some music as you take?
Now we're in the mood. Now we get to the hard-hitting questions. Okay, that's great. So Sean, thank you very much. And so I'm just curious because once again, I'm not a Westboro person. I live in faraway Marlboro, right? So is this your first time doing this? You know, why did you do this? I'm sure you know Shelby was going to ask you about that. And you've said this a million times, I'm sure, because it was the campaign, you know. But for the folks who are now who are watching, if you can give a sense of that, you know, that would be great. Just some background too, right?
Well, first of all, Art and Shelby, thank you for having me on the show. This is a wonderful opportunity. I think prior to being elected to the select board, I was on the advisory finance committee for roughly the past 5 years. And that was a wonderful opportunity to learn about the inner workings of the town, understand its budget, and really is what sort of drove me to run for the select board was my understanding of how I felt the town was doing and the opportunity there was to even to a greater extent help the town. And so I did take that opportunity, and I'm glad I took the plunge to run for the select board. So far, it's been a wonderful experience.
You didn't just do this because you love night meetings and you were just kind of trying to fill out your dance card with like more night meetings?
Well, you know, I'm just doing different night meetings now, but
right.
They are, you know, it's amazing how much the select board actually is asked to do and how much it accomplishes. And how much our town leadership does as well. So that's been terrific these first couple months, you know, sort of hitting the ground running. And with, you know, it was a little different this year. Usually town meeting comes right after the town election. So you get elected and then you just sort of get introduced at town meeting. This year we had 2 months between the two events. And so we really had a lot of work to do in preparation for town meeting. So there was no sort of getting to know you period, I think, after getting elected, but it's been a tremendous experience so far. And I look forward to the next 3 years.
Yeah. So Sean, what are your, so, I mean, to your point, you and Patrick sort of were tossed right into the mix, and it is amazing how much work we've done over the past year. The pandemic certainly hasn't slowed us down. Curious, sort of your impressions and of being on the select board. Is it sort of so far meeting your expectations? And in the context of, sort of as I'd asked Patrick, we're always looking for great people to run for offices, whether it's elected or to be appointed to boards and committees, and just kind of your thoughts about kind of the importance of service in the town.
Gotcha. No, thank you, Shelby. I enjoy the select board. I think it is, made up of 5 individuals who truly have the best interests of the town at heart. Certainly, we don't agree on everything, and that's good. But at the end of the day, I know that everybody on that board is doing what they believe is best for the town of Westboro, and I don't question that in any way. And my interactions with town employees, I feel the same way. I think prior select boards have done an excellent job of hiring, which is probably the most important job that the select board has. So, it's been, I think, just a confirmation of what I believed, when I went for the role. In terms of, talking about other committees and in volunteerism, so initially we then went through and sort of some committees have selectmen as official members, and then we liaise with other committees. And so I'm happy. I hopefully I didn't bite off more than I can chew with that, but I'm a member now or liaison to multiple committees, and looking forward to really getting involved with those. I'll just sort of highlight one today, and that's the Senior and Disabled Taxation Aid Committee. And I am now, it didn't require a select board member to join that committee, but they were short on members. And so I am a member of that committee now. And there are 4 of us. There is another spot open for a 5th member, and really looking for somebody who would like to contribute. Right now, the composition of the committee is the town assessor as sort of the chief of the board of assessors, and the town treasurer are members. And then myself, one other citizen of the town, Alice Tepner, is a member of the committee. And then there is a 5th slot open. And I would love to get another member on that committee. One, I think it's important that certainly these town employees are great to have on these committees where they can provide specific expertise.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe it's important that the majority of members on these committees are town residents who are really driving the decisions the committees come to. And so,
Sean, what's the purpose, just if you could explain to our friends, Frank and Mary, what's the purpose of that committee? Because we have two committees that sound alike, but can you speak to this one? Yep.
Right. There's a Senior and Disabled Tax Relief Committee, which was really formed to try and come up with new ways for us to help relieve the burden on those individuals in town. And so they are chartered with trying to come up with new rules or opportunities for relief, but the Taxation Aid Committee is really implementing and actually providing relief to individuals. So the Taxation Aid Committee is collecting monies into a fund that can be dispersed to taxpayers to help them cover their tax burden, and is also then making decision on the applications of those who come in front of the committee. Also coming up with the guidelines as to who should qualify, because there are qualifications necessary in order to receive tax aid. Up until this year, there hasn't been too much money collected into the fund, but I think one of the things we've seen due to the pandemic is an increased amount of charity and donations given, a greater level of support for all those in town who are having difficulty, and the fund has actually received a fair amount of money in this past year and really has enough that we could make some, opportunities to really help some people in town who are having difficulty. So we want to start to push forward and really make some meaningful change in this coming year.
So Sean, I was just going to say, one thing we might think about is, at a future show, after you've, been to a few more meetings, I think it would be important to have a show just on that. How can people contribute? What are some of the programs or ways in which, taxes could be potentially offset? How could the aid be used? That sort of thing. So we don't have to go into depth today, but I do think it's certainly a worthwhile opportunity, and even just to educate folks based on the giving and receiving opportunities that come out of that committee.
It makes a lot of sense that the assessor's on it, because it really complements the assessor's work in dealing with abatements and in dealing with cases where there are cases where they may really not be able to have the statutory ability to do what they need to do, and so you're able to provide that supplement. So that's a wonderful thing. That's a wonderful thing.
And Sean, you tell, if you would just share with Frank and Mary a little bit about your professional background, because one of the things that Arthur has been amazing for me is, as I've gotten to know Sean more, is he comes at it from a very different lens in his questions and all than I do, because I'm not a finance person, so I'm leading into a little bit of Sean's background. And so that's what I also love about the current board dynamics, is the mix of professional experience, because even though we're in public service, the lens and context we bring really, I think, enhances, the capabilities of the board.
No, thanks, Shelby. Yes. And I guess a little personal background as well. My wife, Kim, and I moved here in '94, and we've raised 3 sons, or still raising 3 sons in the town of Westboro. Our youngest is finishing up his sophomore year at high school. And my in-laws, who my father-in-law's name is Francis, and his wife Elaine, have lived with us for the past 6 years, and which has been wonderful. And
maybe he's like the original Frank, and we just don't know it.
Frank. Yes.
You're gonna have him on.
That's right.
Well, yeah, be careful what you ask for.
They all start looking like Frank and Mary at some point. It's like when you get to be my age, all the little kids all look the same. They're just a bunch of little kids. You can't know how old they are. They're just these little kids. So Frank and Mary is with you. So that's great.
Yes. And for the past 25 years, up until the end of 2020, I worked for Fidelity Investments. And it was in, capital market, multiple divisions. Capital markets was where I finished my tenure there. But I took some time off, ran for the Board of Selectmen, and at some point I'll get back in the workforce, but just enjoying sort of what I'm doing in this opportunity with the town.
Well, it's because it pays so well, Sean. I realize this is a huge replacement for what you're making at Fidelity.
That's right. This is really helping your 401k, I'm sure. Right?
I think there's other individuals in our household who would like to see me get a job again sooner rather than later. But I'm really enjoying this and getting involved with all these other committees. And I do come from a finance background, and I have my CFA charter that stands for Chartered Financial Analyst. So it does kind of bring me in from a numbers perspective on a lot of these items before us.
So Sean, I know it's early right now, right? You're just in the first couple months of your first term, but and you are working on some of the we've divided up, Arthur, our select board goals. So each selectman chose kind of what they wanted to work on, and there's some overlap among us. But Sean, what's your vision, right? You have 3 years. What are some of the things that you'd like to focus your time on? Understanding it takes, kind of a lot of effort from a lot of folks and the board to go along with your ideas, and the town staff to support it. But what's your vision? How do you want to leave your mark, at least in this first term?
Sure. No, thank you, Shelby. I think one of the things, and this was something I ran on, was, trying to help the taxpayers of this town and see what we can do to sort of help with their annual tax bill. And part of it is the sort of division between residential real estate and then industrial and commercial real estate in town. And we've seen a real shift over the last 10 to 15 years towards the residential real estate in town, and it's increased the burden placed upon that sector. And I would like to see the commercial and industrial sort of come back to where it was. Right now, it's about 70-30 residential. And say 15 to 20 years ago, it was 60-40. And if we can sort of get closer back to that original balance, I think it would really help taxpayers in town. So that's one, although that's not a this year type of thing, I think hopefully at the end of 3 years, we'll see movement in that direction. And there'll be a clear sense that we're making progress towards it, but it's certainly not something that we're going to complete in just 3 years.
And Sean, you're just so everyone knows, you are a member of the EDC, or the Economic Development Committee here in Westboro. So you're filling Alan's shoes, and I was on that committee beforehand. So it's great to have you on that. And just so you know, I don't know, Arthur was, he's very modest about this, but he was very involved in that other town, Marlboro's work in developing their corporation, right, Arthur?
Yes, I was the chairman of the board at the Marlboro Economic Development Corporation from 2010 to about 2013. So I can appreciate what you're saying. So we're very aware of that, constantly focusing on that split as being really the only way that you can control residential taxes, and what I remember, what we kept telling the town. I remember the time when it was being created and we went to the city, and regarding the creation of the Economic Development Corporation, they said, well, what do you do exactly? What's the point? And I remember I did a diagram of or not a diagram. I did a picture of I did a slide presentation. Remember back when they were called slides? I did this a long time ago. It's funny that they're still called decks, even though there are no slides in the decks anymore. It's a PowerPoint deck. What does that mean? So it's a residual. So anyway, I did this. It was a picture of a pizza, and I said, we always think about the government in terms of how you're cutting up the pie, and then I showed a picture of our budget, and here was the pie cut up, and here's the police, and here's the fire, and here's the schools, and blah, blah, blah. And then I said the revenue also comes in a pie, and so I showed a little picture of the revenue side, and here's the taxes, and here's the state revenue, blah, 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 right? And then I just showed a picture with a little pie and a big pie, and I said our job is to expand the pie, because if you expand the pie, like everybody's better, and that was it was a real challenge, to get folks to realize that is a conscious piece of the town, that you're not just reacting to that and like, oh, we really hope a lot of companies come, but hope isn't a plan, and so the question is really how to do that, right? So it's great that you're really kind of involved in that, and I know you folks have worked on that now for several years. I know I originally met Lester Hensley going to one of your meetings, going to one of the economic development meetings, right?
And at a future meeting, actually, at the end of June, Zachary Bogner, our economic development coordinator, will be our guest. So it'd be nice sort of,
excellent.
Yeah. So he's going to come on, and he's already done some great work, and really excited that he'll be able to introduce himself to the community through this means.
And I know that I'm not supposed to ask the really hard questions, so I'm not going to start talking about split tax rate. I know that there has been a long philosophical difference between these two communities regarding the value of the split tax rate, right?
Yes.
And we won't go there. We won't.
That's for another show.
That'll be a sequel. Right?
Yeah. And one of the other great things that's happened sort of over the past year is we finished the assessment that prior to my joining, the assessment of kind of our town government and changes we can make within our town government. And one was to move the economic development coordinator into a new, as part of a new department within our town government. And so now really, it's not an individual effort to try and get all these things done, but it's a coordinated effort between multiple individuals. And I think we're seeing a lot of benefit from that.
That's great. And that's key, because I know so often, you'll be doing the permitting regarding this project or that project. And often there will be, of course, the immediate neighborhood concerns. Ooh, this is a traffic issue. Ooh, this is a noise. And those are legitimate, right? But so often in that context, there is nobody on the other side of the table saying, and yes, those are all very important, but let's not forget that the net increase in revenue from that parcel as a result of this project is $500,000, and which changes it's wonderful, because it just allows everybody there to kind of change the conversation a little, or to make sure it's balanced.
Correct. Yes.
So-
No, that agree
I'm sorry.
100%. No, go ahead, Shelby.
Yeah, no, so just, Sean, as in the couple minutes we have left here, what do you see as, town priorities? I mean, I know you've already talked about shifting that balance closer to the 60-40, but what other priorities do you see the town having to focus on? And maybe, kind of in that, the challenges. So not just kind of what should be a focus, but challenges in accomplishing that.
Gotcha. No, thank you. Well, I really appreciate the fact that we do have 5 individuals who are working all towards, kind of the same goal, and that now we've been able to divide up all of the committee and liaison board assignments between of all. So I feel we've got kind of complete coverage of everything that's going on in town, so we can provide support and advice to all those committees and boards. For me, I think, another committee that I'm liaising with now is the Youth Commission, and we haven't necessarily had enough coverage to always have somebody involved with that committee. So I'm looking forward to that. And, I think diversity, equity, and inclusion right now are critical and top of mind for all of us. I know they are, for yourself, Shelby, as a member of that committee. So I want to see how, as a town, we can move forward on that goal as well. And it's, I'm sure, a lot easier said than done, but really some challenging things in front of us that we can hopefully make progress on.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that I think it's going to require a lot of conversations, a lot of really understanding sort of frameworks, and understanding understanding where do we want to go, because Westboro, I don't want to be naive to say that Westboro doesn't have issues in this, or opportunities to improve, but Westboro is also not Boston. It's also not Louisville or wherever. I don't know. Westboro is Westboro.
Marlboro. It's
not Marlboro, right? Right.
For God's sake, right?
Right. So, and so I think, we've got a great demographic mix here in Westboro, and to be able to kind of engage more people in the community to kind of build that framework, I think is really important. And I love that we have a liaison to the Youth Commission, because I think that, certainly our youth have great ideas. And one of the challenges, as we've talked about as a community, is, while we want our elders to be able to stay here, we also know that the affordability for young folks to come and live in Westboro, not that, the South End is a bit cooler, let's be honest. But, if they want to come back here, we need a good, healthy mix of folks and ages and all of that. And so getting them involved and understanding the importance of being involved in public service, I think is really important, and having that mentorship, so I appreciate you doing that.
And I guess I will just throw in, and as I had mentioned to you, Sean, at the beginning of the show, my job is to provide comic relief and keep track of time, and I'm watching that time. But I think I just wanted to mention. So I do the show with Shelby. I actually have shows in quite a few communities, in 10 of them, and so I see the different mix. The way the government works is in a whole variety of places, and the notion that you consciously connect a selectman as a liaison with all these different groups, right, is really, it's unusual, but it's ultimately what makes it go, right? Because it's ultimately about everybody being there, because there's an inevitable tendency otherwise. You've all got your day job and you're focused on the little thing in front of you. And so you tend to silo in to that little thing. But then as a result, nothing big gets done because everybody's doing their little thing. And then they start thinking they're competing with each other. And, oh, that's a very different game. And when you talked about the reason why you ran, I think that is not unique to you, that people run here because they see the selectmen here and say, well, they're a nice group of people, and they seem to, who needs a night job in a hornet's nest, but to be able to go and feel like you're really doing something, and that you're interacting with a bunch of people who are pretty smart and interested and respectful of where you are. Who wouldn't want to do that? In addition to the pay, you think the pay is, so it's just, so I think it's really wonderful. I think it's really wonderful. So Shelby, I know that you had, despite the fact that these were your competitors, or at least one of them, Sean, in the election, that you were very charitable of you to want to have them on, and I think this has really been beneficial. And I think it's certainly been interesting for me. And once again, I think, Sean, this goes to the heart of the point of this show, which is really, you've got a lot of seniors who, like me, they're getting older. They don't want to get out a lot, and with the last thing is to go to a night meeting so that to be able to really kind of see people kind of live and really get a sense of them is a big deal. So, Shelby, I really appreciate your getting these folks on. And Sean, I really appreciate your coming on and also trying to blend into my no tie look. So thank you so much, Sean. Shelby, thank you so much for doing this. This is really great. And folks, we hope you enjoy this. We should ask Sean. So if anybody needs to reach you, do they call you at the selectman's office? Is that the best way? If they've got
if they want to email us through town hall. So it's, I believe.
We'll put a slide up at the end. We'll have Aiden drop a slide in
Right.
with Sean's contact information. You can always contact the board through our general box, but if you want to go to Sean directly, he's a great guy, great listener. And I would encourage you to reach out. And Sean, I appreciate you being our guest today.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Shelby, thank you so much. And folks, thank you for watching, and we'll look forward to seeing you on the next installment of Frank and Mary here in Westboro. Thank you so much.